Today, I'm talking to Jim Morgan, who has quite a lot of experience as a musician, but who now has a different role within music, and that is to oversee operations for the International Songwriting Competition and Unsigned Only Music Competition. Jim is Australian, but he now lives in Nashville, Tennessee. So I'm going to ask him about that trajectory and about the competitions. Hi, Jim. Good to meet you.
Hi, Sophie. How's it going? For me, I basically started out in Australia. I'm originally from Canberra, and I was playing in bands, kind of working in the public service as well.
Right.
Obviously from Canberra, but I got an opportunity to come to the US and work for a lady that was running the Boston Music Awards and the Nemo Music Conference. And so I kind of jumped at that opportunity and came over and was working with her for 2 years in Boston. And Nemo and the Boston Music Awards. Boston Music Awards pretty well known within the New England area. Everyone from Aerosmith to the Pixies to New Kids on the Block had played it and been, and been recognised. And then Nemo was kind of like a South by Southwest showcasing opportunity. We used to showcase about 200 bands in 20 venues. So physical event, did that for a couple of years. And then Candace Avery, the woman I was working with, she was looking to get back and focus more on just songwriting in particular. So we created the International Songwriting Competition back in 2002. Had no idea how successful it could possibly be. And after the first year, it proved very successful. And she basically decided that she didn't want to live in Boston anymore. She'd been there for over 20 years. And we packed up everything and moved our small office at the time down to Nashville. Didn't really know anyone. So we came down to Nashville in 2003 and kind of been here ever since. Running the International Songwriting Competition.
Well, I'm going to take you way back though to the Canberra days, if you don't mind, because you were a drummer initially, and I wanted to know if drums were your first love.
It was, yeah. I was a drummer for many years. Started out playing when I was like 15, 16, and was playing in bands, original bands, cover bands. Back in the day, when I moved to the States, well, especially when I moved to Nashville, the level of musicianship is so incredibly high here. I don't even tell people that I was a drummer previously, but I started out as a drummer back in the day, but it's definitely been a while since I did anything like that.
So you don't even play recreationally any instruments at the moment?
No, I mean, I have a drum kit at home, and I have a bash in the basement kind of thing, but that's about it. That's about as far as I get.
So your own musical taste when you were growing up, or when you started playing in bands, what were you listening to at the time?
I was always pretty passionate about music, even from a fan perspective. I mean, I obviously remember this. I was a huge Countdown fan, religiously every Sunday. I'd have to watch Countdown, know what was going on the top 40, so I was, into a lot of Australian bands. I was a big Paul Kelly fan, Cold Chisel, In Excess. Oh my God, I'm trying to think of all the,
So, well, you let Molly Melbourne dictate your taste for a while.
I did. I very much let Molly initially dictate my taste. And then I started, when I turned kind of, I think around 17 or 18, and you start getting more of your own kind of feel of things, I started listening to more kind of, a lot of American music too. I became a huge Springsteen fan, and John Cougar Mellencamp, and then REM. The list goes on. Counting Crows. So I definitely, kind of tried to indulge in as much music as humanly possible. Like I think every 17, 18 up to their mid-20s tries to do, as much as they possibly can.
Yeah. So now you kind of live in music paradise, because having been to Nashville, I know that there are just venues everywhere and there seems to be music all the time, like 7 nights a week. You could go to any little neighborhood area and there would be a bar there. So is it sometimes like not necessarily an embarrassment of riches, but more there's so much choice you don't know where to turn if you want to go out for the night? It's like, well, which place do we go to for live music?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely become like that. And when I first came to Nashville, like over 20 years ago, my impression was probably like a lot of people, which is, oh, Nashville is just country music. And it wasn't the case even back then when I first got here, but now it's not like that at all. And Nashville's moniker is Music City. It's not Country Music City, it's Music City. And it's Music City for a reason, because we have so much style, variety, so many different genres of music all happening at the same time. And the community here is very supportive of musicians in general. Not, no matter what music you really play. And the fact that we have so many recording studios here, which were initially, here for country music, but obviously do a lot more than just country music now. So that has made a huge impact, made it affordable for people to record here. There were initially, obviously, labels were here for country music, but they branched out as well to accommodate all the other styles of music. And then Nashville itself in the South, even though it's in the South, is very much a very good hub for touring. So, and the cost of living here is very affordable, especially compared to Los Angeles and New York. So all of those things combined make it a very desirable place for musicians to move to. So like, the Black Keys moved here, Sheryl Crow moved here, Kid Rock is here, lots of really big name artists, as well as obviously all the big country artists are here too. But it just continues to grow musically. It's amazing.
And even when you arrive at the airport, I remember coming in, I was like, there is live music at the airport. And there was live music at the airport when I went out as well.
Yep. So the other interesting thing too is, and you, Sophie, I think you said you went down to Broadway. So all of the bars that are on Broadway, or those live honky tonks, they're called, they'll start playing live music from 11 o'clock in the morning. So you can be walking down on either side of the street and just listening to live music, and none of those musicians get paid. It's all tips. They all get paid in tips.
Okay. Yeah, I remember thinking when I first went down to Broadway, I was like, this is like the Tamworth Country Music Festival on steroids, because in Tamworth, the music starts early in the day, but those bars are, they're a full-on enterprise.
Yeah. And that's 7 days a week.
Yeah.
They're like that.
It's wild.
Like every day. And it's not, just special events. It's, 365 days a year.
Yeah.
It's like that. So, yeah.
But, as you said, it's like this now. But when the International Songwriting Competition and you and Candice moved it from Boston to Nashville, it wasn't necessarily like that then. This is a relatively recent development. So what at the time was the thinking behind moving it to Nashville?
For us, moving the International Songwriting Competition, we initially came down for a music conference called Folk Alliance, which has been around actually longer than longer than the International Songwriting Competition. It's probably been around at least 30 years now. And they happened to be having it in Nashville in 2002. And it was, I think it's the only time they've ever had it in Nashville, which seems crazy thinking about it now. But so we came down for that in like February, and the weather in Boston at the time was, horrible, freezing. And we came down to Nashville in February, and we were like, and it was one of those freakish days, Nashville days, where it was really warm. And we were like, oh my God, like, and it was all music based. It was easy to get around. We were like, oh, this is crazy. Why don't we move here? And Candice was like, let's do it. And she literally sold her business like in 2 weeks. So
Right.
found her business in Boston to sell, and we, she bought a house down here, and I ended up renting initially, and yeah, we just kind of picked up and moved. So it was kind of a spur of the moment thing, but it's funny. The other thing that people will say to you whenever you talk to people that live here, that no one ever goes, I like Nashville. They'll go, I love Nashville.
Yeah.
And it's almost like the Stepford wives, like, oh my God, oh, you have to go to Nashville. Oh my God, it's amazing kind of thing. But it's kind of like that, after you've been here for a while. And it also, for me, I'm from Canberra originally, and the topography is very similar to Nashville. And it reminded me of Canberra, how Canberra was in the 70s, very spread out, easy to get around. And it just made me feel like I was at home for a lot
Right.
of it, which was, kind of crazy in a way. But, I just connected, I guess, with it when I moved down.
Look, I'm going to take issue with you saying Canberra's easy to get around. It's the one Australian city where I always look at GPS. I just, every time I'm there, I'm like, I know this city was planned, but I'm just, there are intersections where there are 4 suburb signs at the intersection. Like, I have no idea what's going on here.
Okay, yeah, well, yeah, and everyone who's not from Canberra always says that, and they always complain about the roundabouts, but
No,
get used to it.
Canberra is everyone who lives, I know who lives in Canberra thinks it's fantastic. But anyway, we're not talking about Canberra. We're here to talk about the ISC, but also Unsigned Only. So you started off with the International Songwriting Competition.
Yeah.
When did Unsigned Only begin?
So Unsigned Only was after we've been doing the International Songwriting Competition for 10 years, and we wanted to do something kind of special, I guess, on the 10th year anniversary. So we created a category in ISC, and within the International Songwriting Competition, the competition is open to both signed and unsigned artists in all of our categories, except for one category that was specifically for unsigned artists, where you couldn't be signed to a major record label. And that category in particular was very popular. And we were like, look, why don't we, and we have so many unsigned artists that were entering the competition as a whole, it was like, why don't we spin off Unsigned Only into its own separate competition? And instead of the focus being on the writer of the song, which is what the International Songwriting Competition is, we'll reverse that and we'll make the focus on the artist. And it doesn't matter if you're not writing your own songs, because we accept cover versions as well. So that was kind of the impetus for Unsigned Only, and that's been running now for over 10 years. And we're actually just about to do a major change, really, and you're actually going to be the first person to hear this, really, outside of our office. We're doing a big change with Unsigned Only in the next couple of weeks, where it'll become Unsigned Only Music Awards as opposed to a music competition, and we're going to give away a physical award. And the awards are really cool. It's actually the same company that does the Emmys and the MTV Music Awards and all of those very cool awards. So we're kind of excited about it. It'll still be completely online with no physical events, so it doesn't matter where you're entering from, where you're coming from, but you'll now win a very cool physical award that you can use to, show off your talents. Yeah. So, and we'll also be giving away some major cash as well to the overall winner for the competition.
I mean, these days, when it seems to me, at least coming from the perspective of the Australian country music industry, there are a lot of unsigned artists because the relationship between artists and labels and how labels function is changing all the time. Obviously, you would know all about this. So it's a really interesting time to be involved in anything to do with unsigned artists. But also, I would think harder for unsigned artists to get noticed, which is why awards may well be of use to them, because as opposed to the competition and being awarded a prize, actually be able to say I have an award to help them stand out, because these days discoverability is a major issue, and that's obviously going to help them be discovered by audiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And look, we're always looking for opportunities that we can do for our artists too. And once we announce our finalists each year for both competitions, we actually get contacted by industry, and we've had artists that have got publishing deals, film and TV placement, artists that have got management, artists that have ended up getting signed after winning both our competitions. So, anything that we can do to help get more recognitions to those artists is definitely something that, is a benefit to us and a benefit to the artists, we think. So,
yeah. So the International Songwriting Competition, as you said, it's about the songwriting, not necessarily about the artist. So that means that someone who is a songwriter but not a recording artist or a performing artist can actually enter a song.
Absolutely, yeah. And we've certainly had artists that have been winners in the competition where, they'll submit songs and they'll get a studio musician to perform the song. And the cool thing with ISC, like you were just saying, is all of that recognition goes towards the writer of the song. So it doesn't matter if you've got, a studio person to go and perform it, because, you're winning all the accolades, basically. In the International Songwriting Competition, which I think a lot of times the writer gets overshadowed in this industry. So that was kind of one of the cool things, and one of the things we focused on right from the start with the International Songwriting Competition was be able to give recognition to those writers of the songs that are being entered.
Well, and also just back to Nashville being a good home for it. I mean, the number of Australian artists these days who will go to Nashville purely to write, like they'll get in a room and they have all these rights organised. So it seems to have become the songwriting hub of the world in many ways.
Yeah, and I guess I hadn't realised either before coming to Nashville and really understanding the country music scene, and this is happening too across the board definitely with pop music, but I didn't realize how many writers were involved in writing hit songs. I think if you looked at the country charts just today, I don't think you would find one song that was not co-written by at least 2 or 3 people. Probably a minimum of 3, I would argue, for country. And with pop, it's even more than that now. Like, I think the average is like 6 or 7. It's crazy. But country music is definitely a collaborative effort in this town. It's all about connecting with people and co-writing.
So when people enter the ISC, can they enter a song that has multiple writers, or is it just for a single songwriter?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's only really 2 requirements when you're entering the International Songwriting Competition. The first requirement is that it must be an original composition that you're submitting into the contest, and then secondly, all songwriters must be credited when you're entering the competition, and that's kind of it. Now it's up to you as the songwriters to determine if you become a winner in the competition, how you want to disperse prizes, but all songwriters must be listed when you're entering the contest.
And you have quite a few well-known judges as well every year in this competition. So I'm fascinated how you get these people involved. I think Reba McEntire is there this year. So it's obviously something that they recognise as being important, or that they recognise songwriting as being important. They want to be involved.
Yeah, it's a whole process. I actually get the judges that we have for the competition every year. And I will tell you, it takes months to put it together to get those judges. And then a lot of the judges that we have participate each year enjoy the competition so much that they'll do it year after year. So, for example, Reba McEntire, this is her, I think it's at least her second year, maybe even her third year of participating as a judge. Mariah Carey, it's her second year participating as a judge. Tom Waits has been a judge for over 15
All
years of participating because he just loves doing it so much. Nancy Wilson from Heart has been doing it for about at least 8 or 9 years. I mean, it's crazy how much you know, respect these judges have for what we do. It's so flattering and awe-inspiring that they, you know, they want to be listening to up-and-coming artists and be able to give back to the community that they once came from. You know, it's it's pretty incredible when you step back and think about it. And then we've had a lot of really well-known winners in the competition as well. We've had a lot of really well-known Australian winners in the competition. So, you know, everyone from Troy Cassadaly was a winner with us. Casey Chambers was a grand prize winner with us. Kate Miller-Heike was a grand prize winner with us. Goitier was a winner with us. Tones and I was a grand prize winner with us. Vance Joy was a grand prize winner with us. And then we've had, who else we've had? Missy Higgins was a winner. So it's almost become a who's who of the, you know, Australian music industry of who's kind of entered our competition over the years. Teskey Brothers, I'm just remembering now, are winners. So yeah, we've had a lot of winners over the years.
So for any artist who's listening to this, watching it and thinking, should I enter? Most of them will have a brace of songs, right? It's so are there any tips that you can give in terms of song selection? Should they write a song just for the competition? Should it be like the newest song they have? Can it be an older song? How would they pick out of the songs that they've written?
You know, what I would say to any artist is when you're entering any competition, you want to put forward what you think is the best representation of you as an artist and what you think your strongest song is. Now, for us, it certainly doesn't have to be the latest song you've recorded or the oldest song you've recorded. There's no stipulation on when a song was written that you're entering into our competition. And you can certainly enter more than one song into the competition, and you can enter more than one song into more than one category. You don't have to, you know, you can just enter one song into one category if you like. The advantages of entering more than one song is you're competing against, you know, different songs and different artists in each one of those categories or with those songs. And there's also the potential to win more prizes, you know, and have your songs heard by more celebrity and industry judges, you know, if you make it through to the final round. So, but it's totally up to, you know, the artist what they want to submit.
Yeah. Now, after all, so many years of you working with this competition or working at the competition, running the competition, what motivates you to keep going?
You know, like I think I was saying it early on in this interview, I'm probably a music fan first and foremost. So there's nothing quite like hearing an amazing song, you know, for the first time, and then, you know, we all run into each other's offices or whatever and go, oh my God, you've got to listen to this song. This is fantastic. You know, that alone is almost worth gold for me. You know, just being able to hear so much great music every year that comes through our competition, you know, from all over the world, is I see it as a privilege more than anything else. You know, I'm working in an industry that I love. You know, and I hate to say it, but I probably do it for free. You know, it's amazing. You know, to be able to do something as a job that you absolutely love and are passionate about. You know, not everyone can say that in this, you know, in this day and age. So it's incredible to be able to hear fantastic new artists coming through year after year, and especially new undiscovered artists. That is, you know, that's amazing to be able to say, oh, you know, I remember when they entered the competition and no one had ever heard of them. that's a treat.
Yeah. And I imagine you get to then make your own sort of secret playlists out of things that you're hearing coming through the competition. You'd be like, well, these are all the people I know are great, but then I've got to wait for everyone else to find out once the competition results are announced.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely the case. I mean, we'll have artists that, become favorites in the competition, and music is incredibly subjective. So sometimes those artists don't even, end up becoming winners in the competition, because judges have gravitated towards someone else, which, shows to you that music is still incredibly subjective. In fact, I think there's only ever been one artist and song that I can think of that was unanimous across the board when it was a finalist in our competition, and that was Vance Joy with Riptide. That was the only time it was across the board, every single judge.
And it is a great song. That's still a great song. Over here and over and over again.
This is an amazing song, but it's different every year, so but that's one of the joys too of, you just never know what songs are gonna, come through at the end of the competition.
I think particularly for unsigned artists in the Unsigned Only competition, it is a good way to test what you're doing, because often people who are starting out think, well, how am I going to know if anyone likes my music? And it's always like, well, you just got to try it. You got to put it out there. That is really the only way to find out, by competing against other people, whether it's gigs or going into a competition like this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And any competition is something that I would suggest to people starting out in the industry, because you're basically gauging your music against the potential industry that you're wanting to compete, whether you like it or not. The music industry has the word industry in its name for a reason. It's competitive. So, you might not think that, you think that music should just be considered as an art form, which it is. But at the same time, if you want to make your music something that is a living for you to live off, then yes, you're going to be competing against other artists, whether you like it or not. So going into things like the International Songwriting Competition, or, the Unsigned Only Music Awards, as it's now called, is a great way to, like you were saying, test the waters and see where you stand. And to be fair too, we've had plenty of artists that have entered for a number of years in the competition and haven't done anything initially, but they keep persevering and striving to do better. And then, we'll see that they've entered the competition and they've become a finalist and indeed a winner. And we've had a number of people that have done that over the years. And that is also one of those things where to be able to see that, workmanship and just strive from an artist over the years entering our competition, and see their progression as an artist, that's incredibly gratifying as well, I would have to say.
Well, and in reference to it being an industry, I am very fond of saying it's show business, not show friends. So
exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that is the nature of things. Now, is there anything you would like to say about the International Songwriting Competition or Unsigned Only Awards that we haven't talked about yet?
I mean, I think, if you're an aspiring artist, you can certainly enter into both of the competitions. And you can enter both competitions with the same song, if you like. You're obviously competing against different artists in each competition, and there's different judges in both competitions. And we've certainly had people that have become winners with the same song in both competitions. So, unless you are strictly a writer, if you're strictly a writer, then you probably just want to stay in the International Songwriting Competition. But if you are an artist where you're writing and performing your own songs, and you can certainly consider entering both of the competitions. I would certainly suggest doing that.
Well, I will put links to both accompanying this interview, and there are various rolling dates for closing things, I think. So people need to check out their submission guidelines and the dates. And for now, thank you very much, Jim. It's been great to talk to you and to find out about these competitions.
Thank you so much, Sophie. It was a pleasure speaking with you.